It must be Monday.
We got something we can tap this with.
This video series is not meant to be instructional. It is, however, an invitation to view my journey as I strive to build a log cabin on a budget. Working with sharp tools, felling trees, building log cabins, etc. is inherently dangerous work, which is why they should not be attempted without the proper training, safety precautions, and full knowledge of the associated risks. Enjoy. Sincerely, The Outsider. It was the beginning of August, and we were ready to start gathering materials for the cabin foundation. With the better part of summer already gone, we were running out of time if we wanted to have the foundation in place by winter. We needed to haul several loads of fieldstone and 9 boulders to the build site before we broke ground. Something much easier said than done. To start, we had use of my grandfather's tractor, which we've nicknamed the Cadillac. Although my grandfather's tractor is powerful enough to haul even the biggest boulders, it is notoriously hard to maneuver between the cedars. With its wide turning radius and extra length due to the bucket, we've often commented that it would be just as easy to drive a Cadillac through the bush. And so the name just stuck.
I'm still standing. Top, so she has the weight on there. And now we'll tighten that up in theory. Yep.
Take it nice and slow.
Whoa! Whoa!
I don't know if that one's gonna come.
No, we'll leave it.
What if we spin around and get the tines underneath it? We could try that. A little bit further. Right there.
When the rain started to fall, we kept moving, hoping that it would pass. But it didn't. The rain only got heavier, and it didn't let up. Normally we would have called it quits for the day, but we only had the Cadillac for a limited amount of time, and so we pushed on. One thing's for sure, I can't remember being this cold and this wet for a long time. As hard as I worked to stay warm, I just couldn't keep up with how quickly the rain sapped my body of heat. Talk about being soaked to the bone.
Yep. Okay, get back out.
With all 9 boulders finally delivered to the build site, it was time to get out of the bush. Although the Cadillac was gone, there was still more fieldstone to gather and logs that needed to be retrieved. If I wanted to continue working on the cabin, I would need my own tractor. Meet Wilbur, Willie for short. He's a 1948 VA Case. This little tractor is perfect for the job. For what it lacks in power, it makes up for in agility. With its small size, high ground clearance, and ability to turn on a dime, Willie was able to access parts of the bush that the Cadillac simply couldn't. Since we log our trees selectively, some of the cedars have been dropped in very tight quarters, but Willie was able to grab them no problem. With all the logs retrieved from the bush and accounted for, we headed off to grab some more fieldstone.
That was a good one. That was a good one too. I think if we fight with it a bit. What if we roll it up that way? Right over there.
The days were already noticeably shorter, and the forest was quickly losing light as we headed back with our cargo. The next item on my to-do list was to move the log pile. Normally, I wouldn't dream of moving it, but I decided that it was sitting in the perfect spot for the cabin. So the pile had to be moved. I only wish that I could have put it in a different spot in the first place. In this type of cedar bush, clearings are few and far between, but we relocated the pile to an opening not too far away from the build site, which I've called the lower clearing. Some of you will remember from episode 5 that it was near the lower clearing that I found a small spring. some of the logs, although dry, were still heavy to lift. It took all 3 of us to lift the bigger logs. To help save energy, my dad used several poles as ramps and a rope to roll the logs onto the pile. Now even the heaviest logs could be rolled onto the pile by one person. There's definitely a big difference between working harder and working smarter.
There. Okay. Some pile up there. Oh, that's not working.
With the colors of autumn in full display, I realized that my plan to have the foundation in place was quickly slipping away. We hadn't even broken ground yet because we still needed more fieldstone. To make matters worse, Wilbur blew out a rear tire due to a rotten rim. This meant my little tractor was out of commission until I could find an affordable replacement rim and tire. Any available time that I should have been spending on the cabin was now diverted to tracking down used parts and fixing my tractor. Then came the first traces of winter. I was incredibly frustrated with the time that had been lost because of all the problems we were encountering. But being frustrated doesn't change anything, so it was time to reevaluate the plan. I knew I didn't have any hope of getting the foundation in place before winter came, but I could at least push to have the last of the stones and logs moved to the build site before the snow flew. That way, we can break ground as soon as spring comes along next year. I made some quick arrangements and we ended up enlisting a 1951 W4 McCormick to help us move the last of the pile while we waited on parts for Willie. We started a second seasoning pile at the build site, but this time in a different location from where the cabin will one day stand. We covered the first seasoning pile in the lower clearing to prepare for winter.
Okay.
I decided to leave the build site pile uncovered as an experiment. When spring comes, I want to see if there are any differences between the logs that have been covered and those which haven't. With Willie back up and running, it was time to get the rest of the field stone. Now it is the end of the season once again. Although I was hoping to have the foundation in the ground by now, I look around at what we've accomplished this summer and I'm encouraged. Everything we need to start the construction of the cabin is all here. Come spring, we break ground. Well, hello fellow outsiders. We've reached the end of another log cabin on a budget episode. The work has seemed slower this year, but we've been working just as hard. This has been a summer of hauling stone basically. And so it's a lot of the same work, but it needs to be done. We needed to bring the foundation in, And so we've brought in literally tons of stone. And I was hoping that by the end of the summer, I was thinking optimistically that we could maybe have the foundation in place and maybe a couple of the the sill logs in place and maybe some of the flooring. This has been a summer of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I needed a tractor of my own to keep hauling the logs out of the bush and hauling the stone that I needed. But the issue is that I bought a tractor and it runs really good for its age, but it needed just a go-over of everything. A bunch of little things added up, and I ended up doing a lot of work on the tractor when I would have rather have been working on the cabin. And so although I got a tractor to speed up the work that I was doing and make it possible, the tractor itself made things a little slower in another sense. And on top of all the issues with trying to get the tractor working properly again, I had one of the back tires blow out on me, which ended up being a big problem. It was very hard to find a tire size that I needed for my tractor, so that delayed me quite a bit, unfortunately. So I'm not where I want to be, but I'm still very optimistic. I'm still happy with what we did this summer, and wouldn't have been able to get anywhere near where we are without my tractor and without my good friend helping me, and my dad, of course. It's great having their help. The plan for this winter is get the snowmobile out, and I've got a couple of pairs of snowshoes, and I'll be scouting out poplars in the bush this winter. I'm planning on dropping a few and either dragging them with the snowmobile or just getting them in the springtime with the tractor, which is probably the more likely case. And I'll be using the poplars for flooring. So this summer was cutting the last of the trees, getting all the supplies for the foundation here at the cabin site, and this winter will be all about getting the flooring that I need for the spring. And I've been saving my pennies. I've been saving up for a portable sawmill, which I'll be using to make my lumber. And if I don't have a portable sawmill, it's just not economical enough for me to build this cabin, so I really need to get that portable sawmill as well. And for next summer, I'm really excited because now everything is where it needs to be. We have enough logs to start, we have enough building materials, rocks basically for the foundation, and so when springtime comes, I'm very excited to break ground, to get the foundation in place, and get the logs going up. And once that happens, the cabin is going to start happening very fast. These past 2 summers that we've been working on the cabin, the progress has seemed very slow, although we've been making a lot of progress. It's a lot of necessary things. So far we've just been gathering materials, but finally next year we're going to be able to start putting it all together, which I'm really excited to start doing. So I'm being optimistic here again, but being optimistic is good. I plan, or I hope, that by next winter, not this coming winter, but by next winter, I'll have enough of the foundation in place and enough of the logs in place that we can keep building through the winter time, so we don't have to take a break when the winter comes. But we'll see. Again, plans change, they always do, but that's where things stand right now. It's been a slower season with a little more difficulties, but nonetheless I'm very happy with our progress. And again, I want to thank all of you for watching, your likes, your comments, your views, and I just want to let you know that there is more to come. So thank you very much. I'm the Outsider saying, until next time. Well, I almost made that goal.
This was the day our dream of becoming professional basketball players was shattered. Brakes on a tractor are important, right? Looks like the tractor needs a new set of brakes. Good to know. Here's a fun game. Pay close attention to what's missing on my tractor when I come out on the other side of these branches. Looks like my tractor needs a new muffler. Good to know.